You wake up some mornings, and the thought is already there. Not loud, just waiting. It sits behind your ribs before you even check your phone. You are replaceable. You look around the room, and the evidence seems to agree with the thought. The email inbox that would fill up just fine without you. The meeting that would happen with a slightly different face in your seat. The relationship where you wonder if you stopped reaching out first, how long the silence would last. You move through the day carrying a quiet background hum of anxiety. It's not panic. It's something more patient than panic. It's the feeling that you are renting your place in the world, never owning it, and the rent could go up at any moment, or the lease could simply not be renewed. This isn't about imposter syndrome exactly. That word gets thrown around until it loses its shape. This is deeper than feeling like a fraud at work.
This is the suspicion that your absence would create a vacuum for about 48 hours, and then the air would rush back in and smooth over the spot where you stood, perfectly, seamlessly. You notice it in small, almost embarrassing ways. When a friend cancels plans, your first thought isn't disappointment. Your first thought is a quiet confirmation of a private fear. See, they found something better. When a partner seems distant or distracted, you don't assume they are tired or stressed. You assume they are bored.
You assume they have finally seen the blueprint of who you are and realized it's just a copy of a copy of a copy. And if they leave, they will find someone else who laughs at the same jokes, who fills the same space in the bed, who listens to the same stories, just with a slightly different set of teeth and a different childhood street name. The interchangeability of human connection. That's the wound here. The fear isn't just about losing a job or losing a title. It's about losing the distinct outline of your existence in the memory of others. It's about becoming a generic placeholder in the narrative of someone else's life. Psychologically, this isn't a simple anxiety disorder. It's rooted in something we call social survival monitoring. The human brain, for all its poetry and calculus, evolved in a context where being separated from the group meant dying on the savannah with a hyena chewing on your leg.
The brain does not differentiate between social exclusion and physical danger. It uses the same neural alarm system, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. That's the part of the brain that lights up when you stub your toe. It also lights up when you feel left out of a group chat. And here is where the pattern gets its teeth. If you grew up in an environment where love or approval was contingent on performance, your brain wired itself to see relationships as contracts rather than sanctuaries. You learned that you are kept around for what you do, not for who you are. So now, in adulthood, you are constantly auditing your own value proposition. Am I funny enough to justify this seat at the table? Am I useful enough to justify this friendship? Am I productive enough to justify this space on the planet?
You have become your own ruthless HR department, perpetually evaluating whether you should be laid off from your own life. And the cruel irony is that this fear makes you behave in ways that actually push people away. Because when you fear being replaceable, you stop being present. You perform. You monitor. You smile when you want to scream. You say yes when your body is screaming no. You become a mirror, reflecting what you think they want to see. And in doing so, you erase the only thing that was actually irreplaceable, your own genuine, messy, inconvenient self. But before we go any further, before we even touch what to do about this, we need to sit with a truth that most self-help will never tell you. The fear of being replaceable is not a glitch in your software. It is an adaptation. It was a solution to a problem you faced long ago.
If you were a child and you needed to keep the peace to stay safe, making yourself small and agreeable and easy to replace was a genius survival tactic. You made sure the machinery of the household would hum along quietly without friction. And that worked. It got you through. The problem is that you are no longer in that house. But the operating system never got the update.
Your brain still believes that safety lies in being the most convenient, least demanding version of a person. And that's why you feel hollow, because a convenient person is, by definition, a generic person. And generic things are always replaceable. So what is actually happening inside the skull when this alarm goes off? Think of your brain's self-concept as a radar system. Most people have a radar that pings back a steady signal. I am here, I am distinct, I matter. But when you fear replaceability, your radar has a massive blind spot.
It can only detect external validation. It cannot generate an internal signal on its own. Neuroscience calls this the default mode network imbalance. The default mode network is the part of your brain active when you're just sitting there, daydreaming, thinking about yourself in relation to the past and future. In people with this deep-seated fear, the default mode network overcouples with the amygdala. You are not just thinking about yourself, you are scanning for threats to yourself. Every silence is a red flag. Every unanswered text is a sign of impending obsolescence. There's a metaphor for this that I want you to hold on to. Imagine you are a book. Now, a book in a library fears being replaced if it gets tattered or if a new, shinier book comes along. So it tries to change its cover every week. It tries to rip out pages that someone might find boring. It scribbles in the margins to seem more interesting.
Eventually, it's not a book anymore. It's a pile of loose paper and glue. No one can read it. No one can even find the story. The library discards it. Not because it was a bad book, but because it stopped being a book at all in the frantic attempt to be the perfect book. Your brain is doing this to your identity. You are shredding your own narrative to try and fit on a shelf you were never meant to be on. Now, since we've opened the loop about what to actually do, let's close it, but not with platitudes about knowing your worth. That's empty. We need a framework grounded in behavioral psychology that works with the brain's wiring, not against it. The first step is what we call identity anchoring through specificity. What to do? You need to create a list, but not a list of achievements, a list of 5 specific, non-transferable sensory memories that only you possess.
Not, I graduated college, but the way the light hit the cracked linoleum floor of my grandmother's kitchen at 7:12 a.m. on a Tuesday while she hummed off-key. Why it works in the brain. The hippocampus encodes memories that are rich in sensory detail and emotion as unique files. When you recall these, you activate the anterior insula. This part of the brain is crucial for interoception, feeling your own body, knowing your own internal state. It is the biological opposite of dissociation. It grounds you in a body and a timeline that no one else occupies. An example, you're sitting in a meeting and the wave of dread hits. They could just get someone else to run this report. Instead of spiraling, you bring up that memory, the linoleum, the off-key hum. You feel the weight of your own history press back against the emptiness. You realize no one else on Earth has that exact sequence of data in their head. That is non-fungible. You are, at a data level, irreplaceable. The second step is what we call counterfactual disruption. What to do? When you catch yourself thinking, they would be fine without me, you must complete the sentence with a specific, small, ridiculous detail they would miss. Not my contributions, the tiny thing. She would miss the way I always let the dog lick the yogurt spoon because she pretends to hate it. Or he would miss the way I stack the coasters because no one else stacks them like a little tower. Why it works. Catastrophic thinking is a left hemisphere overdrive. It deals in big, sweeping abstractions. All, nothing, everyone, forever. By forcing the brain to zoom in on a micro detail, you engage the right hemisphere's perceptual mode. You shift from abstract dread to concrete reality. The brain cannot hold the vast emptiness of replaceability while simultaneously holding the image of a specific unstacked coaster tower. It breaks the spell.
An example. Your partner is quiet. You think,
They'd rather be with someone more exciting. You pause. No. They'd miss the way I mispronounce quinoa on purpose because I know it makes them roll their eyes by mistake. That's a lock only you have the key to. The third step is voluntary exposure to neglect. This one feels counterintuitive, but it is the most potent for rewiring the threat response. What to do? Once a week, you do not reply to a non-urgent text for 3 hours. Or you say, I can't make it tonight, without offering a 3-page essay of excuses and apologies. You let a small, safe silence exist. Why it works? The fear of being replaced is a phobia of abandonment. And phobias are cured not by talking about them, but by exposure and response prevention. When you pull back slightly and the world does not end, your amygdala updates its threat assessment file. It learns, space does not equal exile.
You are breaking the compulsive loop of performing for safety. You are teaching your nervous system that your value is not held together by the frequency of your text messages. An example. You leave a friend on read for 2 hours while you finish a chapter of a book. You feel the anxiety rise. You want to grab the phone and explain why you were busy. You don't. 2 hours pass. You reply, sorry, was reading. What's up? The friendship remains intact. The sky did not fall. The brain learns. Silence is not always a goodbye. The fourth step is the functional alternative fallacy. What to do? You need to write down the difference between being functionally replaced and being emotionally replaced. Someone can sit in your office chair. Someone can even date your ex. They cannot replicate the specific emotional data you imprinted on the world. You must separate these two concepts in your mind. Why it works. This is a cognitive reframe based on distinction therapy. The brain lumps loss of role and loss of self into the same neural category because they both trigger the social pain network. By creating a linguistic and cognitive barrier between the two, you prevent the spillover effect. You can grieve a job without grieving your existence. You can accept that tasks are transferable while knowing that your consciousness is not. An example. You see a new hire at work who is younger, faster, cheaper. The old story says, I am obsolete. The new story says, they are doing a function. I had a tenure of experience here that shaped the team's inside jokes and the way we handle Friday afternoons. That data is archived. It cannot be deleted. The fifth and final step is embodied claiming. What to do? This is not a thought exercise. When the feeling of smallness hits, you do something with your body. You stand up. You stretch your arms wide. You take a deep breath that presses against the bottom of your ribs. You take up physical space. Why it works? The connection between posture and neurochemistry is not a myth. Power posing research by Amy Cuddy and subsequent studies show that expanding the body increases testosterone, which is linked to assertiveness and status defense, and decreases cortisol, the stress hormone. But more importantly, it signals to the reptilian brainstem that you are not in a predator-prey scenario. A curled spine is a hiding spine. An open chest is a staying spine. You are telling your amygdala, I am not hiding. I am not running. I am here. An example. You feel the wave of replaceability in the grocery store line. You feel like just another faceless consumer in a sea of them. You uncurl your shoulders. You look at the fluorescent lights. You breathe into the back of your ribs. You are not just a transaction. You are a specific nervous system standing on tile floor number 47, and that changes the internal weather. Now, as we start to bring this all together, I want to offer you a single mental model to carry with you. It's the model of the wave and the stone. Most people, most of the world, they are the waves. They crash on the shore. They are loud. They are visible. They are the things people notice first. And waves, by their very nature, are replaceable. One wave looks much like another. They come and they go, and the ocean never runs out of them.
The fear of being replaceable comes from trying to be a better wave, trying to be the biggest wave, the most impressive wave. But you cannot win that game because the tide will always turn and another wave will always come. You are not a wave. You are a stone on the seafloor. The waves don't see you. They move over you. They churn and they crash, and they believe they are the only thing happening. But you are the one who stays. You are the one who feels the deep, cold, quiet weight of the water. You are the one who changes the current just by existing in a place that no wave can ever truly reach. The waves will always be there, but this particular stone, with its particular shape, worn down by a million specific, irreplaceable moments of erosion, will never be formed again.
That is not a metaphor for hope. It's a description of geology, and it's a description of a life that has stopped trying to be seen from above and has started knowing itself from below. So you can let the fear be there. You don't have to fight it. It's just the echo of an old survival strategy that kept you safe in a smaller, colder room. But you have the keys to a bigger house now. You can stretch out. You can take up the space that was always yours by the simple, undeniable fact that you are the only one who has ever lived inside this particular body, with this particular memory of linoleum floors and this particular way of stacking coasters. And that is enough. That has always been enough, even when the waves were too loud for you to hear your own depth.